Hello. So today we are just going to discuss about this Azure DevOps architecture. So what you're going to discuss now, right? This is the our Azure boards, okay, where our Scrum Masters and then project managers can have create the user stories and tasks, and it has been assigned to the developers, and then developers will work on that code. So using the IDE, and finally they will just push your code to the Azure repository. Right. So in the Azure repository, I have three branches. One is the QA branch, and then UAT branch, and then production branch. And I have just deployed three app services. One is the QA, and the second one is the UAT, and third one is the production. Now, what you're going to do now? So when the developer commits the code on the QA branch, the application will deploy only on the QA application, and it will not touch anything on the UAT and production service. And if I raise a pull request, right? If I write a pull request either in QA branch also, UAT branch also, production branch also, right? So the application will deploy only I mean, the corresponding CI/CD will trigger automatically and it will deploy on the production app services. Okay, so let us see step by step. Okay, right. Uh, just I need the people. They need a basic knowledge of Azure portal, art services, what you mean by the PaaS service, and basic knowledge on Azure DevOps, right? So let us jump in the demo, right? So this is my Azure DevOps portal, and this is my Azure portal. So first, I'm just going to create a three app services, right? So one is the QA and UAT and production services. You can search in the app services. I will just click on app service. Right. I'm just going to create a new resource group called DevOps-RG. Click OK. Right. I will just give something called my name followed by QA. So select the code. Okay. And then here, just select the .NET 8. Okay. So in case if you are using the Java web application or Python or PHP web application, you can select the Docker container also. So based on your requirement. I'm just going to create a new service plan. Okay. App, my app service plan. Click OK. Right. So next database, directly I will just go to the monitoring site since it's a demo, right? So directly I'll go to the monitoring site and click no and review and click create. So if you notice, right, the first time I've just created the service plan. So in the UAT service, in the UAT app service and then production app service, right, you have to choose the app service plan from the existing one. Don't create every time. Don't create your app service plan every time. So I have one app service plan called my app service plan. Under the app service plan, QA, UAT, production app service. Microsoft Azure is going to charge based on the app service plan, not the number of app services provisioned on that. This is very important because I have just seen many cases, right? So each time they will create a QA apps. I mean, each time they will create app services, right? Every time they will create app service plan. So directly, it is unnecessary cost. I mean, enough for your organization, right? So my QA app service is ready. I click go to the resource. So I will browse this URL. So this is the default, this is the default page you will get when for the Azure App Services. Similarly, I'm just going to create for UAT also. I will just select here, create web app. So select the resource group, existing resource group. Don't create the new one. So in my case, I have DevOps RG, right? So this is my DevOps resource group name. So just give something called my name UAT. Okay, so in case if it is existing, right, it will not allow on that. So select code and select the .NET 8 Windows, your operating system, obviously Windows, because I'm using .NET application. Okay, so just directly go on monitoring. select no, and review and create. Yeah. So the provision of Azure App Services not it will not take more than 1 minute. It will not take more than a minute. So good. So I will just go to the resource, browse my UAT website. I just want to cross check that I have just picked. I've used the same resource group and then same app service plan existing. Right. I will just refresh that. So I should be able to see two, right? So one is QA and UAT. If you look at my right app service plan, I have one app service plan. I have two app service instances, and similarly, I have only one resource group. So DevOps. Now I'm just going to create a production one. Right. Just select the DevOps. This is my resource group, and so this is my app service name for the production one, and this is my .NET 8, and I will select the app service plan. So I'll go to the monitoring section and disable that, review and create. So this is what we completed so far. Okay, I have one app service plan, have QA app service, and then UAT app service, and then production app service, right? So I can go to, okay, meantime, I will just go to create my Azure DevOps project. So in order to go to that, this is your URL. This is your URL for Azure DevOps, dev.azure.com, and Santosh Venkatesan is my organization name. In order to create any project, right? In order to create any project, you have to create under the organization only. You can have multiple organization. So this is my organization. So in case if you don't create any organization, create that. Okay. So I'm just going to create a new project and Azure DevOps branching demo. So this is my project name, right? I always select the private, don't select the public, right? Create, right? So I've just created one my Azure DevOps project now. So let us go to the queue app services, right? So my app services are ready. So if you look at right, I have a QA, I have a queue app services, UAT app services, and then production app service, right? Now it's time to push the code now. Okay, so I have an application somewhere here, right? So this is my application. I have something called a calculator, right? So let me check something here. Okay, fine. Right. So I'm going to use something called Git using first I have to initialize my Git repository, right? So in order to track your changes, right? So you have to initialize the Git repository. I'll just put Git in it, okay, and Git add. Okay, so git add. So the people who are not familiar with the git commands, right? You just explore something called git, how the git workflows come that. So now it's time to move your staging code to, it's time to move your code to from the staging area to your local repository. So git commit hyphen n initial commit. So I will enter now. Okay, so the project which I created, right? I will just go there. Okay, now it's time to move my code from local repository to the remote repository. Just go to the repos, right? So you can just copy this command and run here. Enter this command. So your code has been pushed from your local repository to the remote repository. So I just come here and then if you refresh your page, right? So you can see your code. Great. So your code has been pushed. Now the next step is I'm just going to create a service connection. So basically, your app service is also the PaaS service, and your DevOps portal also it's a kind of the SaaS service, right? So in order to communicate between, because you have to mention that you have to tell to your DevOps project, right? So this is my Azure App Services belongs to the so and so subscription and so and so resource group. You have to establish the connection between your Azure App Services and for your DevOps project. So in order to do that, so just come here project settings, right? So in order to come to the project settings, and there is something called service connection. Click on the service connection, create your service connection. So you have to select ARM, Azure Resource Manager. So that is the one method. And click on that and create a service principal automatic. You can go for the manual, but you have to enter your secret ID or application ID, all those things, client ID and everything's manually. Right. Click OK. Click next. Click next. So you have to select the subscription. In my case, I have only a subscription called Pay As You Go. So in case you have multiple subscriptions, you have to select your subscription and you have to select the resource group. So my resource group called something called DevOps RG. If you go here, right, if you go to my Azure portal, so all my three app services are belongs to the same resource group name, right? So select a service connection called app service connection. This is your service connection name. Scroll down and then you have to select grant permissions to all the pipelines. Click save. So the next step is right. So we have three branches, right? So QA branch and UAT branch and production branch. Production branch is nothing but your master branch, right? So we need to create QA branch and then UAT branch from the master branch. So basically, we have to going to create a copy of QA UAT from the master branch. Just go there, select repository. So your app service connection has been created now. Select the repository. You see that master, right? You select in the master, click new branch. First, I will create a QA branch. So my QA branch is based on the master branch. Click create. And in case if you have any work items to be linked, you can create it. So click create. So similarly, I'm just going to create one more branch for UAT, new branch, UAT. So select the master branch, click create. So total, I have three branches. Total have three branches. Master, that is the main branch, and QA branch, and then UAT branch. Right. So if you click on that code also, right? If you go to the repository, right, you will see something, right? You have a code, right? So similarly, you have a QA branch also. Right. So in case the developer commits the code on the QA branch, right? I have to deploy my application only on the QA environment, only on the Azure App Services QA environment, right? That is the intention here, right? So our branching strategy is ready now. Now we are going to create a build pipeline. The next step is going to create a build pipeline. So in order to do that, so just I will go to the pipeline, create pipeline. Okay, so create a pipeline. So in the first part, we are going to see how to create the classic editor pipeline. After this, the next part, right? Next part, we're going to see the YAML pipeline. So the first one, we're going to see the classic editor. Click on the classic editor pipeline, continue. So my project is based on ASP.NET Core. So I have to select the ASP.NET Core application. So this is the template. Either if you write, you can write a code. I mean, that is, I mean, if you know the steps, right, you can write. So this is a ready-made template. Click apply, and you have to select the agent specification. So my application is based on the ASP.NET Core. I have to select the Windows application, sorry, a Windows operating system, Windows latest. And this is the list of the task, restore. So the first, your code will be the restore task. If you click on the restore, write a restore command, and it will build your project, and it will publish your project. Since I am not using the test one, right, I can disable this. But these are the three tasks. If you are basically from the .NET developers, you know that. So this is your restore command, build command. Okay, this is the build command, and this is the publish command. Right. I will select the pipeline. Before that, so I will just go to the triggers, enable the continuous integration. The reason is checking that, right? So whenever the developer commits the code or creates a pull request directly, I mean automatically trigger your build pipeline. So select that. So include. I'm just going to add the few conditions here, right? QA branch, and select one more thing is UAT branch. Okay. So if the developer commits, I mean, if the developer commits the code on QA branch or raise a pull request, right? Pull request for the UAT branch, right? So your pipeline, build pipeline and release pipeline will trigger automatically, and only the I mean QA branch will deploy on QA environment. So just save the pipeline. This is my build pipeline. Before that, I will just modify it. So this is my CI, continuous integration. So continuous integration, nothing but your build pipeline. Say, click save. Right. So this is the main step. I mean, you have to create in case you have multiple branches, right? I mean, like a development branch, you can have one more branch also. You can create one more branch also. Right now, I'm just giving as a best practices, right? You should not the developer commits the code on the master branch, right? It has to be done through the pull request. Click queue, right? So I'm just going to I'm just going to deploy the pipe and then build the pipeline for the master branch. Okay, master branch, run that. So I'm just deploying the code. Sorry, I'm just building my code, building my application. Okay, in order to build that application, right? So these are the various tasks I have. It will not take more than 2 minutes. You see the right. This is the list of tasks. These are the list of tasks which belongs to my build pipeline. Restore, build, publish. So finally, it will produce the artifacts. So artifacts nothing but your output of your build pipeline and input of your release pipeline. So we just come to the architecture. So this is what we are doing now. So first we are doing the build pipeline, right? No, no, there is only one build pipeline and one release pipeline. So I have created conditions. So if the developer commits the code or if the commits the code on the QA branch, right? So only it will trigger only it will deploy the application on the QA service. So if you notice here, right, I've not created multiple CI/CD. I have just created only one C build a pipeline, only one release pipeline. But I put the condition. Okay, based on the branching, right, it will deploy your application on respective environment. Right. So if you see right, my build pipeline is successfully completed and produced that artifact. If you click on that artifact, right, there is a folder called drop. By default, there is a folder called drop. It will create. So you see that quality.zip, right? Now it's time to create a release pipeline. Go to the release pipeline, click new release pipeline, click new pipeline. So it is asking the stages. What sort of template you have to select. So mine is the Azure App Services. So then I go for Azure App Service Deployment. In case if you're using, Azure Virtual Machines or AKs, right? Based on that, you have to select the template. So in case if you're using that Virtual Machines, right? You see that there is something called IS website deployment. You see that, right? IS website deployment. You have to select this template. But in my case, I've used Azure App Services, so I have to select the corresponding template here. Azure App Service Deployment. So you have to create multiple stages. QA, select this one. So first you have to add the artifacts here. So the artifact is already, created in the builder pipeline. So that artifacts you have to select here. So just add. Okay. So in the QA environment, if you go to the task and you have to select what is a subscription. So in the subscription, you have to select the connection name which we have created in the previous step, not the pay-as-you subscription. If you recall, right, this is the connection name I've just created. Just create the connection name and select your app service. You see, right, this is my QA environment. So I will select a Santosh QA. This is my QA environment. Save my release pipeline. Okay, just